Imagine this. A superior alien race, technologically advanced beyond anything we can comprehend, stumbles upon Earth. They scan our cities, our people, our primitive weapons, and they laugh. To them, we are insects, barely capable of crawling out of our own atmosphere. We are fragile, divided, and hopelessly outgunned. But what if they pushed us too far? What if their arrogance became their downfall? History has shown us one undeniable truth. Humanity doesn't surrender. We adapt, we fight, and sometimes we win against impossible odds. Science fiction often paints humans as underdogs in the grand cosmic arena. But what if this scenario wasn't just fantasy? What if an alien species truly saw us as weak until we proved them wrong? Today, we dive deep into this concept, exploring the raw determination, ingenuity, and sheer defiance that define us as a species, from historical battles to theoretical interstellar warfare. This is the story of how humanity could turn the tide against overwhelming alien forces. The arrogance of the invaders. Throughout history, superior forces have often underestimated their opponents, believing their strength alone would guarantee victory. But time and again, the weaker side has found ways to resist, outthink, and even defeat their mightier foes. Imagine an alien fleet hovering above Earth, assuming that our primitive weapons and disorganized nations would fall in mere hours. They've seen countless civilizations crumble before them. Why would we be any different? But their arrogance blinds them to a crucial fact. Humanity thrives in adversity. Our species has an unmatched ability to innovate under pressure, to push limits when survival is at stake. This is not just speculation. History proves it. Take the Mongol invasions, for example. The Mongols were an unstoppable force, conquering vast territories with unmatched speed and brutality. Cities surrendered before even seeing their banners, knowing resistance was futile. But then they met Japan. In 1274, and again in 1281, Kublai Khan launched massive invasion fleets, confident in his dominance. Yet, both times, the Mongols faced disaster, not just from Japan's fierce samurai defenders, but from unexpected typhoons, later called the Divine Wind, or kamikaze. The Japanese held their ground, and nature itself intervened. A force that seemed unbeatable crumbled before a seemingly insignificant island nation. Now, replace the Mongols with an alien race. Their ships, their weapons, their strategy, all flawless on paper. But Earth is unpredictable. Humanity is unpredictable. Maybe they don't understand our weather patterns, our biology, or even our psychology. Maybe their AI-driven war machine cannot comprehend irrational human willpower. They might be prepared for planetary bombardment, but not for a species that refuses to die quietly. Turning weakness into strength, another historical lesson. Raw strength doesn't always guarantee victory. The Viet Cong, vastly outgunned and technologically inferior to the US military during the Vietnam War, turned their disadvantages into strengths. Instead of facing the enemy head-on, they mastered asymmetrical warfare, hit-and-run tactics, underground tunnels, and psychological warfare. The war became a battle of endurance, and in the end, the side that refused to break emerged victorious. Now imagine humanity applying the same principles in an alien invasion. We wouldn't try to match their firepower. We'd fight smarter. Guerrilla tactics on a planetary scale, hacking into their systems, using their own technology against them, attacking weak points they didn't even know existed. Maybe our greatest weapons wouldn't be missiles or lasers, but viruses, sabotage, misinformation. Maybe our knowledge of Earth, its magnetic fields, its deep-sea trenches, its unpredictable storms, would become our greatest advantage. Because here's something an alien conqueror might never expect. Humans aren't just warriors. We are survivors. What makes humanity truly terrifying to an enemy isn't just our weapons or numbers, it's our minds. Throughout history, human ingenuity has turned the tide of battles that seemed utterly lost. We don't just fight with brute force, we fight with creativity, adaptability, and an unmatched ability to turn chaos into opportunity. Consider World War II, when the British were hopelessly outmatched in the Battle of Britain. The German Luftwaffe, with superior numbers and firepower, expected an easy victory. But they underestimated British radar technology, a game-changing advantage that allowed outnumbered pilots to predict enemy movements with precision. What should have been a swift German conquest turned into a desperate struggle, one that ended with Britain standing victorious. The lesson? A single technological edge, wielded wisely, can shatter an overwhelming force. Now, imagine an alien race underestimating us in the same way. They assume their energy weapons and planetary shields make them invincible. But what if we found a weakness they never considered? What if we cracked their communication networks, exploited a vulnerability in their artificial intelligence, or used quantum mechanics to disrupt their technology? If history has taught us anything, it's that no system is perfect, and human minds love breaking systems apart. And what if, in their arrogance, these invaders didn't even understand human psychology? What if they assumed that fear would make us surrender? But instead, it united us? In the face of an existential threat, old rivalries would fade. The petty divisions of nations and politics would become meaningless. Humanity, as one, would fight back. The power of collective defiance. Never in human history has an external threat not been met with a surge of defiance. Even in the darkest times, resistance has always emerged. The Warsaw Uprising of 1944 saw Polish resistance fighters take up arms against the overwhelming Nazi war machine, not because they had a real chance of victory, but because defiance itself mattered. The mere act of fighting back changes the course of history. An alien invasion wouldn't be different. If an advanced species believed that fear alone could break humanity, they'd be making a grave miscalculation, because fear doesn't just paralyze, it ignites. If one nation fell, another would rise in its place. If one resistant cell was wiped out, 10 more would take its place. Every defeat would fuel revenge. Every atrocity would forge legendary heroes. The invaders might win battles, but they would never know peace. And let's not forget, humans are terrifyingly unpredictable. In war, unpredictability is a lethal weapon. The Doolittle raid in World War II saw American bombers launch a suicidal attack on Japan, an attack that was strategically minor, but psychologically devastating. It shattered the illusion of invulnerability and changed the course of the Pacific War. Now apply that to an interstellar war. What if we sent kamikaze strikes on their capital ships? What if we detonated nuclear warheads in orbit, creating radiation fields they couldn't pass? What if we sacrificed entire fleets just to deliver one devastating blow? No machine, no artificial intelligence, no hyperlogical species could ever prepare for the sheer irrational defiance that defines humanity. The turning point. When they realize their mistake, at first, the invaders laugh. They bombard our cities. They crush our defenses. They assume the war is won before it even begins. But then, something changes. They see their forces being hunted, not just by soldiers, but by ordinary people who refuse to submit. Their supply lines are sabotaged. Their war machines are hacked and turned against them. Their own technology, once their greatest strength, becomes their greatest weakness. And then, they begin to fear us. Because this war is no longer about territory or resources, it's about survival. And humans, when pushed to the brink, become something else entirely. Something even an advanced alien species never saw coming. At the beginning, the invaders saw us as little more than a nuisance. Their fleet, vast and indomitable, darkened our skies. Their weapons carved craters into our cities, and their soldiers marched across our lands unchallenged. But then, the cracks began to form. What they never expected was that humanity would adapt faster than they could react. Our scientists worked in underground labs, reverse engineering their technology at breakneck speed. Our hackers infiltrated their systems, feeding them false intelligence, turning their own ships against them. Our soldiers, many of them not even trained professionals, just ordinary people with nothing left to lose, fought with an unmatched ferocity, striking from the shadows, disappearing into the ruins, and returning like ghosts. Suddenly, the invaders were no longer in control. Their overwhelming firepower meant nothing when they couldn't predict where the next attack would come from. Their armored patrols became walking targets. Their bases crumbled under relentless sabotage. It was no longer a war of conquest. It was a war of attrition. And in that kind of war, humanity thrives. Because here's the thing about human history. We don't just survive oppression, we weaponize it. Every great empire that sought to dominate the world eventually met its downfall at the hands of the very people it sought to rule. Rome's legions were unstoppable until the so-called barbarians learned from them, fought like them, and ultimately brought Rome to its knees. The British Empire, once stretching across the globe, was dismantled not by force, but by relentless resistance from the very nations it controlled. The invaders may have started as our masters, but they were about to become our prey. The psychological collapse of an empire. Wars aren't just won on the battlefield, they're won in the mind. The invaders came expecting a swift victory, but now they were being dragged into the one thing they were never prepared for, a prolonged, grinding, merciless war. A war where every step forward cost them more than they could afford to lose. And slowly, they began to break. At first, it was small things. A patrol ship that never returned. A colony outpost that went dark overnight. Their soldiers, once fearless, began whispering about an enemy that never slept, never stopped, never gave them peace. Rumors spread through their ranks. Stories of entire squads vanishing, of human captives escaping impossible situations, of weapons failing at the worst possible moment as if the planet itself had turned against them. And then came the fear, the hesitation, the doubt. What they once saw as a simple conquest had turned into an unrelenting nightmare. Their forces were stretched thin, their morale crumbling. They thought we were weak. But now, they were the ones looking over their shoulders. They were the ones questioning if they could win at all, the final blow. Humanity's triumph victory never comes all at once. It starts with small moments, an ambush that destroys a key warship, a technological breakthrough that levels the playing field, a single battle that shifts the tides of war. And then, like an avalanche, it builds into something unstoppable. The invaders, now desperate, attempted to regroup, to regain control, but they had already lost their greatest advantage, the illusion of superiority. They weren't gods. They weren't unbeatable. They were just another empire trying to impose its will on the wrong species. And as history has shown, those who underestimate humanity never live to regret it. The war was over. The alien invaders, once so confident in their ability to crush us, were gone. Their fleet, broken and scattered, limped away from Earth, leaving behind the wreckage of their hubris. But it wasn't just their ships that were defeated. It was the idea that humanity was weak, helpless, and doomed to fall before a superior force. What the invaders never understood, and what humanity has always known deep down, is this: we don't break. Sure, the Earth was scarred, cities lay in ruin, and countless lives were lost. But in every corner of the planet, in the hearts of every person who survived, there was something else. Hope. Not the naive hope of those who wait for salvation from others, but the fierce, unyielding hope of a species that knows it can shape its own future. We don't need gods to fight for us. We fight for ourselves, and we always will. As the last remnants of the invaders' forces disappeared into the stars, a new era dawned for humanity. No longer would we look up at the cosmos in fear, wondering if we were alone or if we were destined to be crushed by the weight of the universe. No longer would we cower before the arrogance of other civilizations. We had proven that humanity could stand tall no matter the odds. But the victory wasn't just in the battle itself. It was in the message it sent to the rest of the galaxy. Never underestimate us. We are a species born from struggle, and we've built our greatest strength not in our technology, not in our armies, but in the unyielding will to survive. So what comes next for humanity? Do we seek out new frontiers in space, determined to never let our world be the last bastion of our existence? Do we extend our hand to others in the stars, offering cooperation instead of domination? Or, after tasting victory, will we become the very thing we once feared, the invader, the conqueror? The story of humanity is still being written, and one thing is certain: they may have laughed at us, but we've shown the universe that humanity is a force to be reckoned with. And in the vast, dark void of space, that's a lesson no one will ever forget.